and the economics of it. We were actually looking at the management measures, so the actual use of cost benefit was if we introduce management measures, what are the costs and benefits of doing so, what were the challenges of trying to implement that, and what were the lessons learned. So I'm going to extend what Stephanie has talked about to 3 case study areas in Finland and the East Coast Marine Plan area and the Bay of Biscay, but still in the same time. So the Finnish case study is the national study, so it very much builds on quite a lot more national funding. The other 2 studies were a bit smaller. As we know, good environmental status needs management measures, but the legislation says they have to be cost effective, and this is why we were doing the cost benefit analysis to see if they were cost effective to introduce new management measures potentially to get to that point of good environmental status. So going back to the cost benefit analysis, there are 6 steps. Firstly, what are your management measures? What are the effects of them? How do we value the impacts? Should we discount over time? What's the present value test? That's the cost benefit analysis bit improper, and a sensitivity analysis to say that those CBAs, the cost benefit analysis, worthwhile. Now, as I said earlier, this is very much an interdisciplinary process. We have managers who set the measures, marine scientists who maybe say if they're effective, economists who look at the costs and the benefits based on what the public think those benefits are, and marine scientists who maybe then reality check that back to the state of the ecosystem, and is the ecosystem responding to the management measures and the benefits provided, because ecosystem services are about the underlying ecosystem. And of course we then hope that these results will be taken up by policy towards policy development and potential use or not use of the management measures that are proposed, and will they take up our cost benefit analysis. So those first 2 steps, defining the measures and the effectiveness, and in all cases we actually went to experts to say what management measures should we think about in workshops, either national workshops in Finland or in some of our Devotes workshops. Then we had different ways of looking at the effectiveness, using ecosystem services, as Steph said, or looking at ecosystem modelling, or again, actually asking the experts about the costs. And these are some examples of some of the costs. So it's not just business and industries complying, but it's also the regulator costs. And environmental damages. You might incur more carbon emissions by actually introducing management measures. How successful were we at looking at the costs and the benefits? Well, the cost wasn't so bad in the east coast of England. We could think about how much ballast water management costs. A bit more difficult with thinking about sound management, but as Stephanie sort of implied, getting to actually quantifying those ecosystem service benefits was quite tricky. And if you can't quantify the changes in the ecosystem in the future scenarios, you can't value them. The Bay of Biscay, they used bioeconomic modelling, but it had quite a lot of limitations, i.e. the bioeconomic models are very good for fish and food, but not a lot else. In Finland, they managed to do the whole set of 6 steps, which is great. So in the Bay of Biscay, they were concerned with using CFP management measures, particularly things like scrapping vessels, and they were looking at food provision using the fish rent model, also looking at discards and the new discarding policies. So they were looking at the implications of those, and also the implications of trying to manage the recreational fisheries more. The models kind of basically, in summary, said that there would be little changes, small changes, I mean less than 5% changes in the values of different fisheries if different measurements were introduced. But then they were only looking at the yield of fisheries and the value of those fisheries. So it was a limited analysis, but it showed the value of bioeconomic modelling. In Finland, because this was a national study, they came up with 31 management measures, and they worked out amongst the experts that 31 management measures would cost 136 million, which sounds ambitious and great compared to most of us in the EU, I think. And that's kind of impressive, given that if they looked at how successfully they'd likely close the gap between current status and good environmental status by 2020, they'd do it for descriptor 1, they might do it for descriptor 4, but for the others, they definitely weren't going to reach good environmental status by then, probability-wise. They also had valuation data, particularly sort of focused more around the descriptors or things that are around descriptors rather than ecosystem services. And they used existing studies that were already done some time back, well, not for MSFD, but have been done about how much people value things like clear water, fish stocks. So they had some values that they could bring in. They applied a discount percentage of 3%, and also took into account that they weren't going to reach good environmental status on some of these descriptors, so they factored that into the discounting. They come up with benefits valued at 300 to 894 million, which, if you remember that the costs were 140 million, that's not a bad ratio. So by 2020, you've achieved 2 to 6 times the benefits of the costs. So 31 management measures then starts to look not too stupid, really. It actually looks quite sensible. And they were able to do some sensitivity analysis. So I come back to my glass of wine, is it half empty or half full? Well, there were some challenges. We had limited ecological evidence, so it meant that the scenario forecasting, what do we know about what's going to happen with certain things? It's difficult to forecast. Scarcity of valuation studies. There is almost no raw data for valuation. It's lack of resources to do those valuations, and difficulties in comparing future to present. But there are lots of opportunities. Ecosystem service approach provides a broad perspective. Bioeconomic modelling can work and can help. We can see the trade-offs in different options, and we can do sensitivity analysis to understand the uncertainties. That was a very, very quick skip through. There's lots more information in the paper, which is in the Frontiers book. Credits to my co-authors, and in fact Tobias Berger's lead author, Steph, Heine, John Atkins, Daryl, Tiziana, Aranza, Soela, and all the others.